All right, in this video we're going to take a look at laying out construction lines for the interior walls. We're going to lay down our base wall, make our connections. We're going to lay down the finished walls, make our connections, and then go ahead and start making the openings for our doors and windows. So I'll be referencing these two sheets here that show first the top right half and then the bottom right half of our cottage layout here. And then we'll go into making those door and window blocks. All right, here's where we left off with step one, just laying out those exterior walls. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using my construction lines here, and you can see I've got a layer for exterior construction lines, and I also have a layer for some interior construction lines and other elements. All right, feel free to add any layers as you see fit, just to keep your drawing organized, clutter-free, and legible while you work. All right, so just referencing these notes right here, we've got from the outside of the base wall, we've got 14.6 as a total offset for this wall right here, which is going to be our furrowed wall. And then you can see here we have the 2.6, which is going to be the center line of our main wall. And then we'll go back in and trim out our openings. So let's start with the 14.6 offset, and then we'll do that 2.6 offset. So just using offset here, 14.6 from the right to the left, and then once again offset 2 feet 6 inches from left to right. So that right there represents our wall axis. Okay, now I want to use these on the interior construction line layer, so I'll go ahead and select them and switch layers like that. You can see it's a different color. Also visually helps me to distinguish the information. So I did the horizontal offsets. Let's take a look at the vertical offsets here. Once again, draw your attention to the outside edge of the base wall there for the exterior wall. You can see there we have some fractions in our offset. So this is a good time to take a look at how we input those values. Remember, you could input decimal, or you could just do the fractions, and I'll show you in just a second how we're going to do that. We have our first offset at 6 feet 8 3/4 of an inch. You can see there we have 5 feet 10 3/4. We have several other offsets starting from the top here. Again, offset. We're going to start with 6 feet. So take a look at the command line there. Then we have 6 feet 8-3/4 inches. Offset towards the bottom there. And once again, now I can use the shortcut MA or find match properties. That way you can put that layer or put that line on the correct layer. As I offset again, I've got 5 feet 10-3/4. That's 10 inches 3/4. Offset again towards the bottom. So I'm offsetting always in one direction, right? From one baseline to the next. Now we have 5 feet 4.5. So 5 feet 4, and look at this. I can even do this, right? 5 4.5, just like that. Now I have 5 feet 7. And then we should have 4 5. Now one thing I could also do here, just to review, make sure, since I don't have any dimensions with my construction lines, is also be able to use those intersections between the construction lines and use the measure tool to reconfirm my distances. Okay, but you could always add annotations here. It just gets it cluttered really quickly. Okay, so I've got all the construction lines that I need now, and now I can turn my attention to laying out those interior walls. Once again, I want you to be aware that the way that we use these multi-lines is going to be really important because it'll affect the results that we get based on the connections we make. I would suggest here, if we take a look at our draw panel here, you can see we have our multi-line style, our editor, and our multi-line draw tool. Start with the style tool here. We're going to start with the interior base only. Okay, notice here, because based on the settings that we have, this line here we set it to 255, so it appears white in our drawing area, so we can work with that multi-line style much more easily. The outer lines and the closed lines here reflect the layer onto which I'm going to place that multi-line, right? So the layer property there is yellow. You can see the multi-line here appears yellow too. Let's go ahead and continue. Now when you draw those multi-lines, we're going to start from base, from one edge of the base of the wall to the other. Okay? And then just hit escape. We'll do the connections later. Actually, you could just leave them like that because the appearance is correct. But you'll notice that later when we put in that finish, we'll definitely have to do the connections to the finished walls. Next, we'll take a look here at laying out the furrowed walls. As I continue here, I'll start from the center of the wall there, follow my intersections, and then come back in here and draw the walls that enclose the bathroom. Again, start from the base to base. And you can see here I started from the center there, come all the way to the base of the wall here. And you can see how it's much easier to do this now that I have all my construction lines laid out, right? Okay, now what we need to do is we need to make the connections. Again, you can temporarily freeze information, right, to make it easier to work. You could also use isolate and select the objects that you want to isolate. For example, only the base walls, right? And then proceed with your work. Now here, starting with this connection here, what we need here is an open or merged T, okay? Over here, we're going to look at open or merged cross. Another T intersection, cross connection. When we look at the connections between the interior walls and the exterior, if you want to leave it this way, this is fine. But you could do also a T intersection. However, we want closed T intersection with the exterior walls. Okay, so if I look here, let's take a look at our multi-line editor. And what we could do, like I said, is we could use open T or a merge T. The only difference is how the center lines are represented, because we're not going to view the center lines when they're printed, right? It's only a visual cue for us. So always select the line that you're going to edit first, and then select the line to which you're going to edit. So we'll select this line here, then the main wall there. Select this line here, and be careful too, you might have to zoom in and out depending on how close you are to the plan. And if you take a look here, you can see as I selected this line, then went ahead and selected this line, it didn't do it the first time. All right, so just be patient and make sure you get close enough to select the right edge. You can see there that wasn't selected, so you might have to try again. Oh, didn't like that, so we're going to undo that. Usually I like to touch the edge there. There we go. And now we could do the cross intersections. So again, it could be an open or merged. Let's try the merged this time. You're always going to select the first one as the one that you're going to edit, and then the second one, the one that you'll edit too. Let's try that again. I'm going to escape, go right back in, merge, cross. There we go. Okay, and so just for now, the way that I have the walls interior to exterior, that's exactly the representation I want to see for now. But now let's take a look at working with the finish wall. Again, I don't need those construction lines because all I'm going to do is go over my interior base walls, but I do want to change layers here. Now you'll notice most of the other layers are off. That's because I was in isolate mode. So now as I unisolate, right, I turn everything back on to the way that I had it. And if I wish, I can also freeze or isolate once again. But what I want to do here is switch to the A-wall comp layer. Now both interior and exterior finish walls will be on this layer. So once again, go back to the multi-line style manager. This time we're doing the interior finish only, so double click on that to make it current. And when I start drawing, once again, we probably didn't check this before, but you'll want to check your justification, right? We designed this multi-line style with the 0 line being the center line here. So you can see right now my justification is set to 0. And that's why I can draw with that center line. So here also, I want to start right at that intersection with the base, because later I'm going to come back and make the connection between the two finishes. So what I would suggest here is you simply trace over your base wall. Again, I'm also starting from the center here. And then finishing at the center here. Starting from the center here, and then coming all the way to the base here. Now, because I'm going to have to do this connection between the exterior finish and the interior finish, I keep it here because I want to show you sometimes also it may not recognize that it's an intersecting multi-line, and you might have to pull that line further into it or beyond it, again, to get the same results. So this brings to mind the question, well, do I need to be working with multi-lines? At any time, you can actually explode these lines. Just make sure all the line work is on the correct layer. Okay? So now let's go ahead and do our connections here. For this, I'll go ahead and simply isolate just the finish wall. Right? There you could see where you need to make connections. So here, what we want to do is make a closed T, right? This is the exterior finish to interior finish. Again, this is the one I need to edit. Select this one first, and this is the one that I'm editing to. And we should do this for, let's go ahead and do closed T. We should do all of these first here. All right, and I'll go over here to this one as well. And you can see sometimes it doesn't see or doesn't let you know that it selected it correctly. But if you notice, if I zoom out maybe a little bit more, or I might have to zoom in. Okay, so we got those closed T's. Now we can do our merged or open crosses, or T's rather, sorry. So we could do open or merge T. And then over here too, you can see how it looks like it's not selecting it, right? So you got to zoom in and zoom out, play with it a little bit, look for that highlight. All right, and then we have the last T right here, and then we could do our cross intersections. Okay. So again, merged or open cross, it's up to you. Okay, now also, keep in mind that if I unisolate now, remember that this little section here isn't really there, right? This is part of the bathroom. Now, if I freeze our construction line layer, and take a look, right? Remember, we've already edited this part. But let me turn on that construction line layer one more time, and this is how I'll use it. I'll use it as a trimming edge. So if I select both of those lines and I trim off both the finish and the base, I have the opening for the bathroom. Now, take a look. What do you observe here, right? Actually, it even chopped off most of this wall right here. Let's undo that real quick. Let's see. Now, the reason why I wanted to do it this way is I want to also show you another tool. It's called welding, right? You have a weld all, cut all, single. This last column here of editing tools. But if I come over here, you can see it's all one wall right there, whether it's the finish wall or the base wall, okay? You could also use the 2D trim and fillet extend commands when you work with your multi-lines. So here, if I'm trimming, let's try to do this one more time. Let's see if I can get our base trimmed. And actually it trimmed way more than I wanted, right? Way more than I wanted there. Let me undo that. I would say that what we could do here, and what I should have done, is probably not made the wall connections there, but I wanted to show you with the cross option how we could make those joints. Okay. Now the only other thing, or only other option I would have here, is to explode these lines and extend and trim them once again, or I could simply redraw it, right? And it just seems like at this point, if I take these two lines, it might be just easier if I simply redraw that portion right there and that portion, okay? But I wanted you to see the open and merge cross. So it's worth doing it. Let's go ahead and go back to our interior wall layer there, and we'll quickly redraw our base from here to here, to the center. And now you'll get to see also how we can weld or bring back our multi-lines, right? Close those gaps. So I think this is a good opportunity anyway. So once again, doing the bottom half right here, all the way to the center there. And then I'll just go ahead and draw in the finish wall as well. So let me just change that style. And then just draft it in there. So in that bathroom area right now, you see those gaps in those walls. Here's how we can get rid of them, okay? Using that edit tool, now we can weld. So if I select that option there, I can weld my wall here just by selecting on one side of the opening and then on the other to close it. Now we can go back again. And now knowing that we don't have an extra wall in here, but what we want to do is either merged or open T here, right? So once again, if we take a look, which is the wall that we want to edit, we want to edit this base to this base, right? And you can see separately that finish wall, we need to weld it before we merge it. So here, if I weld, you can see on one side here, select, and on the other side here, select. Go right back, and we could do our open or merge T, selecting the finish wall and then this finish wall. Let's try that again. So, to weld, you just want to click on either side of the openings. I think we already welded this one, right? Okay. And then now we can go back and do our T intersections. So always base to base, and then our finish to finish. Okay, so that's our interior walls for right now. A couple other things that I want to show you is make sure that you put those base walls up front. They have to be prominent, right? Here's how you could do this. If I use Quick Select as a filtering tool here, I can select multiple object types if I exploded some of those walls. Or I could just be very specific to select multi-lines only. Okay, if I want to be general, I'll just say all. multiple entities and specify only those entities on a particular layer. So if we say the A-wall interior layer, right, it selects only those elements on that layer. See that? And then what you could do is right click and do draw order, bring to front. That's what you want to do. If I want to do the same thing to the exterior walls, I go like this: right click, quick select, again, multiple objects if I don't have all multi-lines, but specify by layer, and we'll say here A wall exterior, click OK, and you can see automatically selects everything. Once again, right click and change the draw order to bring to front. Now, that completes that step. In the next video, we'll take a look at creating the interior openings and then follow up with the doors and the windows.